Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today, we're going to continue our look at Warlock, the 1982 six-issue miniseries that reprints Jim Starlin's classic run on the character from the mid-70s. Let's get cracking. Number 3, once again, a new Jim Starlin cover made just for this comic. Very early 80s Starlin. Not bad. We have another editorial, or it's the Deditorial. I guess there was a character in the first issue that was based on Al Milgrom. Jim Starlin knew Al Milgrom like when they were teenagers practically. So he has this running gag about how he's dead. And it's dumb. Okay, so now we have a reprint of Warlock, number 10, How Strange My Destiny, Part 1, Chapter 1, The Price. Later on, in his Metamorphosis Odyssey series, Jim Starlin would reuse that title for one of the chapters. So this is written and penciled by Jim Starlin and inked by Steve Leialoha. And it pretty much continues right where we left off. Warlock and his friends and Thanos are being attacked by 25,000 of the Magus' Black Knights, his religious soldiers. And the battle begins. And this is a crazy battle. As you can imagine, 25,000 guys. So Thanos has the power of a god, and he's decimating these guys, but still there's 25,000 of them. So basically, this pile of bodies is growing. They're on top, and they just can't keep it up much longer. There's a limit to even godlike power. Here's the mound of dead bodies that they're fighting on. It's just the size of a hill. So Thanos orders a retreat. And when they run outside of this castle, or wherever they are, on the homeworld, they see all these guys too. There's basically like 25,000 more of them. So they realize it's hopeless. So Warlock breaks through the surface, the ground surface, and they all go into these caverns below the city. Somehow Warlock knows these caverns. He has some kind of knowledge of them. He shouldn't. He's never been there before. And then once again, we have a huge recap. I like this one, though. First of all, I love this, the very 70s, using the typeset to give it a classy tint. And I love this very symmetrical graphic here. This is just pretty fun looking. Just telling us everything that I showed you last episode. Once again. And so they round a corner and they find the matriarch. She's been left to rot down there after the Magus condemned her to death. It's weird. They seem to have this affection for each other. Like Warlock's holding her tenderly. And it's very strange. And she eventually dies. That's how Jim Starlin shows death. This giant screaming skull. And Warlock says like, oh, I'm so sorry. If only I'd known, I would have. It's just like, dude, she was your enemy. She's a horrible, evil psychopath. She's killed billions of people. Don't get it. And so this is kind of interesting. Chapter 2, who is Thanos? And Captain Marvel shows up to be our narrator. Because, you know, Thanos was, well, not necessarily introduced in Captain Marvel, but he was basically Captain Marvel's main nemesis for a while when Jim Starlin was on the book. And we find out the whole history of Thanos. And I'm not going to get into it here. Suffice to say, he's known as the Mad God. He's not really mad, though. He's kind of very calculating and rational in his own evil way. He's incredibly evil, but I wouldn't say he's crazy. Now we have chapter 3, Enter the Redemption Principle. Very 70s title. These pages are looking nice. So Thanos has transported them to his ship, this giant spaceship called Sanctuary 1. And it's a pretty wondrous place in there. Pip figures out a way that they even dispense cigars, one of these computer banks. And Thanos is telling him his whole plot. And then he gives us the origin of Gamora. How he found Gamora. They were all going to be decimated by the Universal Church of Truth. This planet Zen-Huberis. They were spiritual and they didn't want to convert to the Universal Church's shitty religion. And so Thanos saved Gamora and trained her to be the deadliest woman in the galaxy. And so now Magus finds out from one of his lackeys that Thanos is his enemy, is helping out Warlock. And he's very angry. God, sorry, just that white afro is so fucking ludicrous. Oh, look at this great Ditko dimension shit. But see, this is something Ditko would never do. He has this weird floating cube with an eye and ears on it. How silly. I guess Starlin... Actually, Lealoha might have colored this. He was a colorist, too. But these are pretty nice, fun superhero colors. So basically, Thanos says, yeah, the only way we're probably going to defeat Magus is you got to kill yourself. Since Warlock is destined to turn into the Magus in a few thousand years. Sorry, I just love this panel so much. I keep staring at it. How Strange My Destiny, Part 2, Chapter 4. This is from Warlock number 11. And now Magus and his Black Knights are attacking Sanctuary 1. And this is a story and layout by Jim Starlin, finished art by Steve Lealoha. And you can tell the difference. Steve Lealoha is a great artist, but I don't think he was when he was a youngin'. This is some of his earliest stuff. He was probably a teenager. I wouldn't be surprised if he was 19 or something. And this is not very good. I'm even surprised that the layouts are by Starlin. Just using 4 panels to a page. This just looks like a shitty 70 Marvels comic. Like this could be like supervillain team up or something. The drawing suffers. Very disappointing. Barely any backgrounds. Just very simple. And Thanos is trying to convince Warlock to use his soul gem. Because there's so many Black Knights. He's just like, if you suck all those guys into your soul gem, the battle will be won. But otherwise, we can't fight all these guys. And Warlock, of course, is resisting. But finally, he says, okay. And he gobbles up the souls of all these guys. And so the battle continues. And then Warlock escapes through this portal. We get to see some more wicked Ditko dimension shit. Look at this pillar of eyes here. It's so great. Oh, man, I'd love just 48 pages of this shit. Just Warlock flying through this dimension. Like that, these geometric shapes. That's a pretty decent panel, I guess. But look, no backgrounds. I bet Jim Starlin felt the deadline crunch this month. He was probably out of LSD and trying to get some. And I'm sorry, these are all rumors. Allegedly, Jim Starlin liked to do a lot of LSD back in the day. It could all be rumor, who knows. So now we got Thanos and Magus squaring off against each other. A very badly drawn Magus and a not very well drawn Thanos. But look at this panel here, how badly drawn it is, and yet it's amazing. Like, I don't know, it looks like some weird alternative artist from the 2000s or from recently. Just so odd. The shading in this. The musculature seems very off too, which makes it even weirder and cooler. I love that panel, but it's not well drawn. And so now Warlock in this dimension, he finally meets the in-betweener. I'm sorry, that name is so silly. He should be called Fair to Midland. In Spanish should be Asi Asi. So, I can't remember if I told that joke already last time, but it just cracks me up. The in-betweener. So, Chapter 5, The Strange Death of Adam Warlock. And they're kind of, this is just a bunch of pseudo-cosmic banter. And so Warlock tries to fight him. But I mean, in-betweener's like this, he's like a god. But man, just the fact that this fight takes place in the Ditko dimension, I fucking love it. Meanwhile, Thanos and Magus are still having a battle between the gods. And meanwhile, Gamora is racing through the strip. And she's basically just trying to escape. She's like, I'm outclassed here. These guys are fucking gods. I'm just going to like hide in this somewhere until the battle's over. Back in the in-betweener dimension. And basically, the in-betweener shows him 5 paths his life could take. It could take one of 5 possible turns. The one before him must surely be the path that leads him to the Magus, because it's like dark vileness. And so using the soul gem, he cleanses that path, or this life as he calls it. And then once it's purified, he destroys it. And of course, we're intercutting between Thanos and Magus' fight. And it looks like Magus is winning. And then all of a sudden, Magus is like, I've become transparent. Warlock is blocking my creation. And Magus fades away to nothing. And so then it says a year, maybe 2 years in the future. So they've jumped ahead. And we see, I guess, the 2-year younger Warlock meet himself from 2 years in the future. And it looks like he has not had a good 2 years. He's dying. And basically he's like, I have no soul. I had to sacrifice my soul to stop Magus. And so the earlier version of Warlock sucks him into a soul gem. I was kind of curious about that sequence. I didn't really understand. But it has something to do with finalizing the end of Magus. So Gamora comes back. Now that the battle's over. And she comments how it's only she and Pip and Thanos, of course, can remember Magus. because basically his existence has been wiped from all time. It's as if he never existed. So nobody even remembers him. So now they go back to the home world, at least Pip and Warlock do, and it's totally different. It's never been, the home of the Universal Church of Truth. And they do see a small church, the Universal Church of Truth, but it's just a little religion, like any other religion. And then on the street, Warlock sees the matriarch. I guess she never stopped being a prostitute in this reality. And so now we have number 12. The first half of Warlock 12 is reprinted here. Once again, layouts and story by Jim Starlin. Finished art and coloring by Steve Lealoha. A Trollish Tale. And this is just a very goofy fill-in type issue. Kind of funny. So, basically, they're Warlock and Pip are at Mama Alpha's Cabaret. And this is what used to be called Homeworld. It's, I guess, really called Cirrus X. And Warlock is brooding. And basically, even though the timeline has been erased, where Magus caused all that ruckus, Warlock can remember all the trauma he felt, going crazy, his soul being stolen from him, murdering his future self. Look at that panel there. That's weird. And also just how many millions of people he's killed. Of course, Pip the Troll doesn't give a shit. He's just like, come on, have another drink. And it looks like the madam of this establishment, Mama Alpha, has hooked up with Pip. She's crazy about him. So Warlock says, I can't stay here. I need some time to be alone. Very 70s hero, almost like the Silver Surfer, even though that's the 60s, but just that whole whiny existential hero who's just always sad and whatever, bemoaning his fate. And so Pip the Troll's pissed off that Warlock just left it, just up and left. And Mama Alpha is doesn't want Pip the Troll to leave because Pip wants to pursue Warlock. Man, some of this art is just shit. Look at Pip the Troll there. That is rush shit. He's definitely rushing the art. I think it's Steve Lealoha's to blame since Jim Starlin just did the layouts. This Mama Alpha character is kind of funny. It's just a weird character design. So this big barroom brawl breaks out. And I guess Mama Alpha is very formidable. She's strong as fuck. She's kicking the shit out of all these crazy lowlifes. And so Pip the Troll leaves the bar. And all of a sudden this vehicle shows up. And he looks inside and there's this woman inside. Her name is Heater Delight. It's almost like a Don McGregor name. And I guess it's called a pleasure cruiser. It looks like I think it's like a mobile whorehouse, I think. So they fly away. And it looks like it's one of those Doctor Who's TARDIS. It's way bigger inside than it is on the outside. And Pip the Troll tells his origin story. He was once Prince Gofern of Laxadasia. But all he wanted to do was paint starscapes. And one day he found an encampment of trolls. Excuse me. And he drank some of their magic juice. Let me see. It has a weird name. I guess he just calls it their dark stew. And when he wakes up in the morning, he's a troll. And that's how Pip the Troll became a troll. He was just a normal dude. Meanwhile, God, this is so ponderous. Just Warlock. I mean, I like this page. It's one of the best pages in the book as far as art. But it's just Warlock sitting on this asteroid, this rock, and just totally whining and talking about his soul gem and the 70s. But then all of a sudden, Warlock says, "What the hell? Can I not even trust my own senses anymore?" And he says, "The stars are disappearing in the sky, in the galaxy." He's like, "What the fuck's going on?" But we'll find out next time. So now we're back to Heater and Pip. Look how different she looks there than the first few panels. Steve Lealola forgot how to draw her. So she beseeches Pip to free her from bondage. She's basically a slave. She basically promises him unbelievable pleasure if he helps her. So Pip the Troll frees... Well, first he stops to steal these wire clippers. And then he frees Heater from this chain. Very fancy chain. And then right then, they hear a teleporter, the buzz of a teleporter. And it's Proboscis the Procurer. So it's basically like her pimp. But he's also kind of like owns her. Completely. This goofball with a big flower in his lapel. Oh man. So the second half of this issue we printed next issue. Okay, Warlock number 4, special edition. Another wraparound cover. They're getting sparser. It looks like Jim Starlin was just like, I'm tired of doing these. I'm already drawing Dreadstar every month. That's pretty spare artwork. So now we have part 2 of A Trollish Tale. So apparently this was drawn just for this comic in 1982, kind of as a linking device. And it looks like Jim Starlin. Grand Comic Database says it's unknown, but that's Jim Starlin. I don't know if it's inked by someone else, but... So now we're back to the reprint. So, Proboscis yanks Pip the Troll by his shorts. Says, "What are you doing with my property?" And he's like, "I'm going to kick your ass." And he has these rings of vice. It's almost like the Infinity Gauntlet. And he's trying to zap Pip. Meanwhile, we see this mysterious person in the background watching, waiting for the proper moment to show up. So Pip's doing pretty good just because he's crafty and he's devious. He's escaping him. He climbs up this cliff, tries to push these rocks down on Proboscis. Seems like the art's getting better. A little better than that last shit we saw last issue. But the Tower of Rocks and the cliff come tumbling down. Pip is somehow alive. And Proboscis is totally trapped under tons of rubble. And she says, your reward is I'm going to give you my pleasure cruiser since I'm out of the vice business. She's basically not going to be a prostitute anymore. And then who should show up? That mysterious stranger. It's Star Fox, which I think is Thanos' brother on Titan. He was later on. He was in the Avengers, one of the shittiest Avengers teams ever. And it turns out Heater's already in love with Star Fox. She knows him. And so Pip's not getting any. And she runs off with Star Fox. And Pip is just like, oh, son of a bitch. And then Proboscis starts breaking out from the rubble. So Pip hightails it out of there in his new pleasure cruiser. And then he says, say, I wonder what's inside this hookah. Just another thing Jim Starlin snuck by the Comics Code, implying drug use. That's another thing I'm sure Jim Shooter would have caught and not allowed to be in a Marvel comic. So now we have Here Dwells the Star Thief. Story and layout, Jim Starlin. Steve Leialola finished art. And this is from Warlock number 13. This is weird. It's a kind of like a typical superhero comic in a way. I mean, it's still pretty cosmic. But just compared to the grand scale of the cosmic stories we've been having so far with the Magus and all this interstellar empires and stuff, this is more like this could be an issue of Captain Marvel, you know. So apparently there's this hospital somewhere on Earth, Wildwood, and there's this guy, he's 24 years old. He was born with no senses at all. He can't hear, he can't see, he can't feel anything, can't smell. He's completely trapped in his own brain. And he has this bodyguard. I guess his father is pretty well off. And basically his bodyguard sits with him, you know, whatever, every day and looks over him. Meanwhile, Warlock is on that little hunk of rock where he was whining last issue, and he's watching the stars disappear. He's like, I'm not crazy. The stars are all blinking out. What the hell's going on? So he sends his soul gem, sends a beam out to basically find out who's doing this. And he goes to visit one of the planets to see the effect of the sun blinking out has had. Which, of course, the planet's frozen. And everyone's dead. It's a one giant graveyard. I'm sorry, here's the page where Warlock sends out his soul gem beam and instantly is zapped. So, I guess, you know, that guy in bed, I should get his name. He'll come to me soon. Well, he's the Star Thief. Not to be a spoiler, but he's the Star Thief. Star Thief sensed the probing and zapped him back. Luckily, Warlock, or I should say the soul gem, cut off immediately, so Warlock wasn't killed. So the bizarre brain of Barry Bauman, the name's right there. And basically this guy, it's his origin story. Talks about, you know, endless blackness, no sound. So he had to become aware, like turn his brain within. And so he mastered his own brain. He basically knows all 100% of his brain. I like this weird panel. This is representing him traveling through the endless passages of his mind. And it's this kind of cool abstract image. I wish there was more shit like that in here. And so basically, the guy who's the nurse slash bodyguard, you know, eventually he figured out how to take over his brain and turn him into a meat puppet. And then he started playing horrible pranks. Well, beyond pranks. Actually killing people with his telekinesis. He creates earthquakes. He's basically all powerful. But still, and yet he's trapped in this body. Well, not totally trapped. He can like release his awareness out into the universe. But his body is still, you know, has no senses and can't really move. I like the way he draws his awareness. So basically, he wants revenge on everyone. Basically, he's bitter because, you know, he's stuck in this condition and nobody has ever helped him. And so he's just going to destroy the whole universe, or at least the galaxy. And then at the very end, after Earth has panicked for a few weeks, he's going to take out our sun, and everyone on Earth will die. And his awareness will just shed off his mortal coil and go explore the universe. So he'll be fine. There's just some classic superhero layouts, even though it would have been better if Starlin inked it himself. But he just totally knows what teenage boys want. So he introduces himself to Warlock. He says, I am the Star Thief, or at least this is my astral projection. And so basically he wants to toy with Warlock. He could just zap him and kill him. But for some reason, he's going to use earth, water, air, and fire creatures to kill him. So he animates these rock creatures, turns them into living rock. I kind of like these designs. It's almost like those guys in Doctor Strange, the mindless ones. I think that's what they're called. I like how they have no faces. And Warlock fights him. And he wins. This is what I was talking about, how this is just such a typical old school superhero comic. He has to go through all these trials. So meanwhile, back on Earth, the news of all the stars disappearing has become public knowledge. And the whole Earth is basically rioting. Suicides are going through the roof. People are murdering each other. There's pure chaos everywhere. In every country in the world. It's just a shit show. Oh, look at that. I think I had a trading card with this, or a Marvel sticker. That's a very classic Starlin image. Man, that's good stuff. So now we have number 14. Is that where we're at? Yeah, I think number 14. Homecoming. Same credits. So now he's being attacked by air, I guess, which are winged creatures who fly through the air. So just kind of dumb. This is a very dopey comic. But then again, most comics were back then. And so, okay, he's defeated Earth, he's defeated air. What's next? I don't know. I can't remember, but we'll find out in a second. Oh, yeah, by the way, just so you know, if you're keeping tally, this is all recap here. Over a page of recapping. Now it's the water creature, this giant space shark. Remember, this came out in 75, maybe 76, so Jaws had come out. So, Jim Starlin's all like, everyone's crazy about sharks. We had a badly drawn shark. Of course, it is a sci-fi shark, whatever, space shark, but it just looks goofy. It looks like Jabberjaw from that stupid cartoon in the 70s. He looks kind of goofy. And, of course, Warlock defeats this shark. And all the ways he defeats his creatures, it's always like some clever trick. Just like some old Golden Age comic or Silver Age comic by Julius Schwartz. It's very old school. It's very, very different than the Magus stories, the epic we just read. Now he fights the fire monster. And he defeats that too. And then the whole thing is, he's been trying to rush back to Earth, but even with his semi-godlike powers, he's not going to get to Earth for like weeks or months maybe. He's almost like going faster than light, but still, he's really far away. So finally he realizes, wait a second, I've got the navigational skill of Autoclius, the guy that I, stole his soul. And I also have the Magus's dark knowledge. So nobody's ever done this before, but maybe I'll use a black hole as a portal, and it'll take me right to the Milky Way, and then it'll just be a few seconds till I get to Earth. And so the Star Thief realizes that he made a mistake. He's like, damn it, Warlock's going to be able to come to Earth and attack my mortal body. I should have just killed him. I should have toyed with him. So I'm going to take care of that right now. And he leaves. Which means that the nurse/bodyguard is free. He's not under his sway anymore. So the Star Thief confronts Warlock. And he basically says, I've won, Warlock. And Warlock looks, as he gets closer to our solar system, all the planets are tiny. He's gigantic, and he's ethereal. He's a intangible phantom. So basically, this is kind of like a sci-fi concept. Star Thief tells him that, you were in a galaxy on the other side of the universe. And the expanding universe theory says that parts of the universe are expanding faster than others. So you've been expanding faster than, the Milky Way galaxy. And now when you return, you can never return to Earth because you're basically just this giant ghost now. Even if you could, shrink yourself down, you're intangible because the space between your atoms is, gotten further. And, but it all doesn't matter. Star Thief's just about to put the zap on him and kill him, finally. But that nurse bodyguard, he's got a few seconds of freedom, and he pulls out a gun, and he kills Barry Bauman. Of course, they all rush in and grab him, and he says, "I've saved the world. I've just rescued us all." And of course, they're just like, whatever, nut job. But Warlock, even though he kind of won, he also is incredibly sad that he can never return to Earth. Because Warlock was created on Earth, not necessarily born. But he could never even return to this part of the galaxy. So now we have the first half of Warlock number 15. And this one is, once again, pencils and inks by Starlin, as well as writing. And you can already see the difference here. And so it pretty much continues where we left off. He's whining about the fact that he could never go home again. The planet I once called home denied to me. And so he decides to go back to, the other half of the galaxy. Meanwhile, we check in on Thanos, and Gamora's hanging out with him. She's basically like his adopted daughter. And she's bored. And so Thanos says, I have a mission for you. Why don't you go hang out with Warlock? He's very important to my plans. So I want you to protect him, because I don't want anything to happen to that guy. I have need for him. So Gamora says, interesting. Almost implying that maybe Gamora has a little crush on Warlock, or just that she finds him fascinating. After she leaves, Thanos, talking to himself, he says, finally I can be alone. I can work towards my true goal, total stellar genocide. So this is when Thanos comes up with that plan where he's going to kill off the whole universe, basically. Meanwhile, Warlock, in his travels, sees this old space guy, and these hulking brutes are attacking him. Warlock rushes in and starts beating up these guys. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes out, Margar. And he's from this interplanetary corporation. I guess basically they're repoing this starship. This old space guy, he couldn't keep up with his payments. And so those big green brutes were the repo men. But they were just going to kick him out and let him float through space until he died. And Warlock finds this out. And it makes him very angry. Look at this look on his face. I love that drawing there. And so basically he says, listen, this is what you're going to do. You're going to ferry this guy back to... You're going to let this guy take his spaceship. And, old man, as soon as you can, you're going to pay these guys back. I like this, just that energy emanating from a soul gem. It looks like crazy tentacles. And then, of course, Jim Starlin sticks in a little comment about capitalism gone awry. I have dealt with your kind before, passionless dealers of dollars and cents. Now we cut away to Gamora, and Gamora's heading to find Warlock, and all of a sudden this figure is on our view screen coming closer to the spaceship, and he just runs right into it, demolishing the whole starship. And I think you guys probably know who this is, but we'll find out for sure next issue. I've got a good guess. Actually, I'm pretty sure I know. And I think you know too, if you know anything about Jim Starlin's stuff. So there you go, guys. Part 2 of our look at this. Probably tomorrow or the next day, I'll have part 3 up, and that'll finish Jim Starlin's run on Warlock. All of the stories he made about this cosmic character. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.